Hello, I'm Janice McWilliams, and I'm so delighted to be presenting here today. I'm the author of Restore My Soul, Reimaging Self-Care for a Sustainable Life, and I'm a therapist and spiritual director, and I am passionate about helping people know how to apply self-care in meaningful ways that are daily and doable and not overwhelming. I am tired of seeing people stuck in cycles of overwhelm, fatigue, and burnout. And then recovery, overwhelm, fatigue, burnout, and recovery. And I know that everyone can benefit from knowing just a bit more about how to take care of themselves. And that's what my book addresses. First of all, a little bit about myself. I am the proud parent of a young adult with special needs. My daughter Brenna is 22 years old. When she was born, after her delivery, the cord and placenta became detached and had only barely been attached. And she was considered a miracle baby. No issues were detected in the beginning, but as she developed, she started to fail to meet developmental milestones. And as a result of that injury at birth, she's got a number of cognitive declines, social pragmatic communication disorder, mood regulation disorder, ADHD. So it was just kind of a global impact on all the different areas of her brain. And so we have been a special needs family walking through life, loving her, and very well acquainted with the myriad stressors and difficulties that come with that journey. So I'm really glad that there's a presentation like this at this conference, because I know from my mother's heart perspective, and I know from my work as a therapist and spiritual director, how much everyone needs help with self-care. But I think especially in our families and in the community that we find ourselves, this is essential for you guys to hear and learn and glean a little bit more about. So I'm excited to give you guys a little bit of the beginnings of what got me thinking about self-care practices that would restore souls and lead to kind of a sustainable life. And a lot of it came from my own practice in private practice, working with people who were going through these cycles of overwhelm, fatigue, and burnout, and then just complete exhaustion, then recovering, only to resume the patterns of overwhelm, fatigue, and burnout all over again. And so I started to see, like, what is amiss here? Around this time, what I started to notice is that when I was treating people, no matter whether they had an anxiety or depression diagnosis, or they were just dealing with life stressors, like a special needs child, or a troubled marriage, or job chaos, or kids really struggling, or illness, that no matter what the situation was we were working on in therapy, that there came a point in the therapy where I would pivot towards, okay, how can you feel better the rest of the day today? And how can you wake up tomorrow and do some things to help buoy you a bit as you were dealing with this big thing? So as I was doing that work, I noticed that there were emerging kind of 4 realms of self-care that I talked to almost all my clients about. And those are the realms of thoughts, and dealing well with thoughts as a way of conceiving our self-care. Emotions, do we comfortably experience emotions, or are we fighting the emotions that come up? Then rhythms of our days, and then in weeks and months and years, but the days I was really drilling into how's the rhythm of your day, and then fulfillment. Do you have something fulfilling going on in most every day? And I realized that if all these 4 realms are tended to, people tended to have better outcomes in therapy. And so as that was crystallizing, another thing was happening in the kind of self-care industry is that it was getting a little more popular to talk about self-care, but I was really getting irritated by the messages. One day, a friend of mine texted me, "Oh my gosh, Janice, did you see that there's a line of self-care Barbies or wellness Barbies?" I mean, Mattel has made a line of wellness Barbies. And I said, oh my goodness, I went and looked it up. And sure enough, There was Meditate with Me Barbie and Spa Day Barbie and Yoga Class Barbie and stuff like that. I'm not getting it exactly right, but basically I saw, okay, yeah, this is about right. Like those are all great things to do, but the messaging was coming through in those Barbie dolls, and that's that self-care is something that's kind of like a pampering thing that you do occasionally that's probably going to be really expensive and take a lot of hours of childcare, which, hello, a lot of us struggled to have. Can I get an amen for that? But the messaging was that self-care was this occasional kind of pampering thing instead of it being something woven into day-to-day life. And so I became more passionate about what does it look like to actually help people figure out how to deal with their inner experiences in such a way that really is daily and doable and makes a big difference. You see, what I was learning is that small interventions can really go a long way in the way people feel inside. And so that's what I want to bring to you guys today, to give you a couple of tools and really help you feel like you can leave this conference with something that you can do the rest of the day today or tomorrow when you wake up that really could make a big difference. Okay, so let me start with a metaphor. Some years ago, I lived with a bunch of friends, and my friend Shar made dinner, and I was so excited. It was tortilla soup. We sat down to enjoy this tortilla soup, and we started eating and had a couple of bites, and I was like, this is pretty spicy. And as I got to like the third, fourth, fifth bite, I was like, I'm not gonna make it. And this is so hot. My mouth is on fire. And Shar finally spoke up and said, okay, something is wrong. And we checked the recipe, and she had done the thing we've all done, which is putting a tablespoon of cayenne into the soup instead of a teaspoon, right? You know, you want some cayenne in the tortilla soup. Yeah. Well, if you're like me, you don't want a tablespoon. So it was too much. We couldn't eat it. This became a metaphor of sorts for me because I realized as I was working with my clients and even dealing with myself and my own personal work, that every day, if you conceive of yourself as making a vat of soup that is your body, and that the ingredients you have to work with are loosely stress hormones and happy hormones. So stress hormones would be cortisol and adrenaline, and happy hormones would be like oxytocin and dopamine and endorphins, right? So when you get up every morning, you've got the different ingredients here in your life. But in certain periods of life, you're going to wake up, you're going to be trying to cook hormone soup with stock that is already really overspiced to start. And now seasoned chefs know that when you put too much spice into a soup, you don't necessarily have to dump out the soup and start over. Sometimes you can do things that will mellow out the spice. You can add yogurt to the soup or sour cream, put peanut butter in it, or add potatoes or brown sugar. Like all these things might serve to absorb and mellow the soup so you can still eat it and even enjoy it without doing anything to take out the stress hormone or take out that extra cayenne, right? How many of you have heard the messaging out there about self-care that's like, you sit down for your annual doctor's, visit, and your doctor says, okay, I want you to eliminate the stressors in your life and, lose 30 pounds and blah, blah, whatever, whatever the message is. But a lot of times it's eliminate the stressors. Well, people, if you're like me, you happen to know that there are certain stressors that just are not eliminatable. When your child has special needs, there are so many stressors that automatically go with that. Whether it's the battling the school system for IEP goals, whether it's finding the right specialist to help you with diagnosis, whether it's finding the right therapist or strategy to help you manage things. I mean, there are stressors that are not eliminatable in life. And we have a particular way we know that. So anyway, I've become really impatient with that message out there. And certainly, no, I'm not saying that that's not possible sometimes. I'm not saying that there isn't a time that you do need to, quit a job or do something, of course, sometimes you can eliminate stressors and you need to, but we all know you can't eliminate all the stressors. So we have the overspiced soup. What do we do when we can't take out the cayenne that's already been put in there, right? Okay, well, that's where I really appreciate this metaphor of being able to put things in it that actually make a big difference, but that don't take a lot of time to do or extra time to do. And these, my friends, are things that I think it's best to think of them, that things that take 1 to 5 minutes of your day, maybe all together if you do 2 or 3 of them. Maybe we're talking 10, 15 minutes at most, but that they're things that are doable to you, that suit you and your personality, and that make a lot of sense. This clarified for me some at the beginning of the pandemic when myself and all mental health workers moved to completely online sessions. And that was a huge change. I had done some telehealth, but to move to all telehealth was like a whole different energy required. But not only that, people who were coming to therapy were dealing with all the stressors of the pandemic and how they were reacting to it. And I had all those problems too. So it was like hard therapy when you're actually trying to sort out the very thing your client is asking you to help them sort out. So I had a group supervision time early on in the pandemic when this was all these changes were happening. And we were talking about, okay, how are we going to handle this? How are we going to take care of ourselves? Like, what's it going to look like? I made a small decision in between sessions, have like that 10-minute break in between sessions. And normally I sort of hop on my email, check my text or try to get something done, in addition to going to the bathroom or getting a drink of water. I decided though, instead of doing some of the chore type things, I would do a real simple sun salutation, like a series of moves that stretched my body, while I did a breath prayer. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of David, on the inhale, have mercy on me, a sinner. So I did the sun salutation with the breath prayer in between each of my sessions. Now, that probably took 2 or 3 minutes to do each time I did it. And since I was doing it between sessions, I probably did it 4 to 6, at most 7 times a day. But that small change, I felt how it made an impact. It was like putting a little brown sugar, a little potato into my soup that had a lot of cayenne, mellowing it and helping me feel better. You see, when we have too much stress hormone in our bodies, we're going to feel edgy, anxious, frayed, weepy. It doesn't feel good. But adding some of the happy hormone to our lives helps soothe that a bit. And those kinds of small practices, it doesn't take like a 3-hour commitment a day to do a spin class and yoga and walk to make a difference. You can do it in small interventions like this. I've worked with a lot of clients on making plans that are, I call them like hormone soup plans, where my clients will pick just 3 things a day that are small interventions that suit them, that feel good to them, and that aren't too difficult or expensive or cumbersome to end up, kind of flavoring their hormone soup. And so what I want to do is give you like an example. So Angelina is a mom, and she's got a kid on the spectrum. She's coming to see me for therapy, and she was going through a really big crunch time, some strain in her marriage, difficulty trying to get some services for her son, and so she's coming to me to get help. And so we were working on all the things, talking about all the big things in therapy. But in addition to that, we made a hormone soup plan. And so here are just the 3 things that she did that that are small interventions that made a big difference in how she felt. The first thing was that she did have a very a spiritual practice in the morning. Every day she did have like 10 minutes with a cup of coffee, where she would read scripture and respond to it. And she had an app on her phone that helped her do this. And so as we talked about what that time was like, we realized that what was happening is that when she was doing it, she was getting a lot of notifications on her phone that would kind of pull her out of the devotion she was trying to do. And then she would also sometimes get a little like, you know how we do this when you've got your phone in front of you and you kind of feel distracted or anxious or something's coming up, and you just habitually or instinctively like check your Instagram feed. So I don't know about you, but maybe sometimes I do that. But anyway, she found that she was doing that a lot. So we decided to go old school on her devotion. She got a paper Bible, borrowed it from her grandma. I'm just kidding. She got like a paper Bible and a paper journal, and she put, for those 10 minutes, she put her phone in the other room so that she had a more focused time that was more fulfilling and connected her more readily with Jesus. And more importantly, since she wasn't clickbaiting or going to social media or her newsfeed, it actually helped her brain sort of slow down for those minutes. So, okay, that was an intervention that took no time. That was her first one. Okay, her second intervention was that when she drove, after she dropped, when she was driving to pick up her son from school and drive him to the next thing, on the way to it, she had gotten into a pattern of either listening to the news, which was a lot of times really jarring, or she would just kind of brood. She had like when she would get a quiet moment, she would just like brood and stew on like what she should have done and could have done and all that kind of stuff. And so we decided no more of that. She played encouraging music on that drive to pick up her son. That was the other change. Didn't take any more time, but made a big difference in changing kind of the energy of the middle of her day. And then the last thing she did is that in the after dinner was pretty much ready, but before everybody sat down, they would turn on the music and have like family dance party. Okay, so it was like kind of crazy, loud, dance party, and always picked music, our different family members got to choose the music for the dance party, and they would kind of just run around and dance for 5 minutes. Now, this is something that for her, Angelina was just not really probably ever going to think of doing a family dance party, but her kids really kind of appreciated that kind of energy. She was more introverted herself, but when she would do it, she would feel better afterwards, right? So that was one thing she added, 5 minutes of dance party, and helped everybody's mood and everybody reset and be ready to kind of like in a giggly place. Okay, now we sit down and have dinner. So Angelina did these 3 things, made a hormone soup recipe that got a little more happy hormone into her soup so that she felt just a bit better at the end of the day. So guys, I'm going to put a QR code up here, and this has a link to a resource for you that has some things about Jesus style self-care, the 4 realms of self-care that I talked about earlier, but it also has a hormone soup recipe kind of worksheet at the end. And it has 50 self-care ideas that take 5 minutes or less. So I just brainstormed as much as I could. What are 50 things that could fit into this category that represent kind of small, daily, and doable things that people could put into their own self-care regimen that doesn't mean getting 6 hours of a babysitter for a spa day. No, I hope you get that too. I hope you get that spa day. I do. But what I'm hoping is that it can be replenishment for you and not just recovery from a life that is unsustainable. What I'm hoping is the hormone soup recipe that you make for yourself will help you feel like your life is more manageable and more sustainable, that your hormone soup doesn't feel so overspiced all the time, so that when you go into those experiences, like being able to really get away and do something, treat yourself to something, that you're not just dragging yourself, like crawling to that experience, but that you're doing better. And then you have those things in your life as well. Okay, the other thing, in the whole realm of rhythms, like I really like people to think about not only the hormone soup, but just to know that it's okay to move fast in your life. Moving fast is not terrible for you. Having go times and, deadlines and times when you are just working hard, there's nothing wrong with that. What becomes dangerous about times of just really, really high effort, fast, is when it's unrelenting. What we need is to have times of slow that are spliced into it. Now, most people think of like taking a vacation. I've been going so fast, I need to move slow, I'm going to take a vacation. Some people might even have a pretty good idea of like taking a Sabbath day and slowing down, just having one day where you pray and play and, enjoy each other as a family without some of the cares of, work, and they have boundaries around that. And that's a wonderful way to have rhythm in your life too. But I really like to suggest to people that they think about, how do you have rhythm in every day of your life? Because if you wake up to the alarm on your phone and immediately check your email and social media and your newsfeed, from the moment you get up, before you even gotten to the bathroom to pee, you have dumped a lot of stress hormone into your life, into your hormone soup. And so I love to talk to people about having like a slower start in the morning, potentially, or before, or if they're going to, if you're going to be out of the gate running, that you have things like the hormone soup activities in your day so that you dip down, that you're not just unrelentingly up here going fast, but that you have stops where your mind and your body and your brain slow down and you get an influx of the happy hormone. So that's what the hormone soup can really be helpful to you and is helping that rhythm of your days. Do you stop in the middle of the day in a way that's meaningful? Okay, so the skill I want to give you around that is called taking a better break. Okay, a better break is not rocket science, but most of us have to be intentional to do it. So when you do have a minute, or you even intentionally take a break, what do you usually do? I'm imagining that most of us say, I pick up my phone. Okay, picking up your phone. Okay, it can be great. This is the way we connect with our friends. This is the way it is the conduit to much blessing. And yet, it almost inevitably is going to give us a jolt of stress hormone. And so my suggestion is that at least one time during your day that you take a better break. So a better break can be almost anything on that resource list that I've given you. But I know one way that I did when I was doing the sun salutations with the breath prayer. That's a better break. One of the things I do now that I really like is I will turn on music that I've got like a Jesus Groove playlist, the songs that I'm liking these days that are really ministering to me. And I'll get a cup of tea in the afternoon. It's got to be decaf or I'll be up all night. And I will just mindfully listen to the music and drink that cup of tea. That's my better break. Sometimes in, working with people where, with young kids and just the craziness and zaniness of being at home, it can be something, it could just be 5 minutes stepping outside, taking a walk, even just around the block. It can be sitting for a moment before turning on TV, just to cuddle the cat, Again, it's up to you, but what is a better break that you could take, at least for one of the times when you habitually pick up your phone? And this can give your day a sense of much needed rhythm. Another thing I want to leave with you guys are just a couple of the really sacred rhythms that in my bigger picture of my life, raising my my daughter. And that's that at a point in my life, I started having a rhythm of twice yearly long weekends with my college roommate, my very best friend, Susie. In the fall, we would go to New York and we would go to a show, we would eat great food, and we would talk. And every spring, I would go see her, and when her husband was away, and we would just hang out in her house and tell a long version of all the stories, pray for each other, really hear the suffering of our lives and the joys of our lives in the long version. These twice yearly kind of pilgrimages and special times with Susie were like a life raft to me in a tumultuous ocean during the years when my daughter was probably, I'd say 10 to 16, 17, when there was just a lot of mood dysregulation, a lot of tumult, a lot of issues with school systems, a lot of IEP meetings that were bonkers, a lot of distressing insensitivity, all the things. My husband and I agreed, that he had his ways of kind of being away, but that these were important enough for us to really make happen. And so those twice yearly things, they never would have happened if we hadn't been intentional. But they became something that we made it as a family a priority. And our kids, even my kids knew, that it was a special time for me, and they know about my special friend Susie, and they know that they are loved by her and prayed for by her. And so this is something that I kind of put out there as, could something like this be a model for you in your own overall self-care journey? We have also vacationed with our dear friends, the Duffys, almost every year together. And they're another special needs family, and we get all together. We have all the chaos of our families combined, which has been kind of crazy at many points. But we also get the support of the long conversations, talking about those joys and those hardships, and the joy of seeing the kids grow up with another set of parents that love them and another set of kids that they're close to. These rhythms for me have sustained me in the particular challenges of being a special needs family. And so I want to throw them out there to you. You guys, I'm putting up another QR code that would get you to a link to learn more about my book, Restore My Soul, Reimaging Self-Care for a Sustainable Life. I hope that there'll be many of you for whom this feels like a good time to read a book like that. I go through these realms of inner world self-care, the thoughts, emotions, rhythms, and fulfillment. And there are 23 skills that you can start applying, not all at once, but you can apply any of them. They're clear step-by-step skills related to each of the 4 realms. So it's the kind of book that I imagine you reach for periodically and try to address a different realm at different points in your life. But I hope it can be a resource for you. You guys, self-care is something that we need to understand as a day-to-day reality in order for us to really lean into all that God has for us in our families and our parenting and our marriages, and in just trying to create a spacious life for our kids who are so challenged. And so I hope that this will be a blessing to you and a resource as you go from here, seeking to make the rest of the day and tomorrow just a bit better. Thank you.